Okay, so welcome everybody to our last admitted student virtual panel. Thank you all so much for sticking around and for joining us for so many of these events. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to get to learn more about Villanova Law. My name is Harrinarine. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at the law school and also a proud alum as well. Really excited to bring you this panel today with more students who are really heavily involved in our academic journals, in our student government, also in our trial advocacy extracurricular activities as well. They're here to chat with you about their experiences as leaders of these groups, but also to chat with you all about ways to get involved outside of this, and also just to answer your questions about being a Villanova Law student. You sort of have some heavy hitters here on the panel. They're all third-year students, so they're all graduating this semester, but they've gone through the experience. They know the answers to the questions that you all probably have right now. And so I definitely encourage you all to take advantage of them during this panel. Put your questions into the Q&A box as we go throughout the presentation today. I know at the end, if you have questions for them, you can always feel free to email me and I can put you in touch with them afterwards as well. So definitely take note of what they're saying. And if somebody sort of piques your interest, or if somebody is doing something right now or after law school that you're also passionate about, let me know. And I can always set up a time via email just for you all to connect further. We're gonna do introductions now for all of our students. We're gonna do alphabetical order here to keep it simple. So I'm gonna start with you, Kyra, and then we'll progress on from there. I think you're up next after that one.
Thanks so much, Phil. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? My name is Kyra Bradley. Like Phil said, I'm a 3L student, and I also attended Villanova for undergrad, where I studied political science. And then I did a master's in social policy at UPenn prior to coming to law school. I'm from Hopewell, New Jersey, and next year I will be an incoming associate at Jackson Lewis, which is a labor and employment firm, and I'll be working in their Philadelphia office. And I'm here today representing the Environmental Law Journal. I am the current editor-in-chief. I'm also involved in the Women's Law Caucus and on the 3L Legacy Committee. So those are some other ways that I'm involved at VLS.
Awesome, and I'll take it from there. My name is Juan Dawson. I am a third year. I attended American University in Washington, D.C. for undergrad. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina, and upon graduation, I will be working at a firm. It's called Troutman Pepper in their energy practice group. So I will actually be moving to Atlanta. Fun fact about me, I play basketball and tennis. Something that I have been able to enjoy throughout law school is taking time away to do the things that I actually like doing. Not that I don't like reading, but it's also fun to do other things outside of that. And I'm here representing the Sports Law Journal and also the Black Law Students Association. But like Kyra, I'm also part of the 3L Legacy Committee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Madeline. I was just trying to go alphabetical order. Like, am I next? I couldn't figure it out. I'm also a 3L. I went to the University of Virginia for undergrad, and I was a foreign affairs major, French minor. Before coming to law school, I taught English in France for a year, which was really fun. And after I graduate, I'm going to be a law clerk for a federal district judge, and then I'll be starting at a firm in Philly after that. So really looking forward to that. Graduation is around the corner now for us, so I think we're feeling that. Today I'm representing the Law Review. I'm currently the managing editor of Symposium. I also do a lot of things with Kyra. I'm on the Women's Law Caucus and the 3L Legacy Group as well. And I also do some work with the McNulty Institute, which is on Villanova's main campus. So it's a really cool way to get kind of away from the law school a little bit. I can talk more about that later, but really excited to be here. So thank you guys.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew. I'm also a 3L, I think like everybody else on the panel. I went to undergrad at University of Rochester in Western New York, where I majored in political science. After law school, I'm going to be working for a small firm in Salt Lake City, doing mostly trial work in criminal defense and family law. At law school, I'm chairman of the trial team. I'm also on the Moot Court board. You'll hear more about that from Vanessa today. And a fun fact about me is I grew up playing baseball. I played in college. And when I was a kid, Cody Bellinger, who is a former NL MVP, hit a home run off me.
I don't know if I can top that fun fact. But for starters, I'm Emily. I'm also a 3L, like the rest of these lovely 3Ls. I'm here as the SBA president. I went to Rutgers undergrad for political science, and then right away, straight from college, I went to law school. I don't have summer or I guess post-grad employment yet, but I'm looking at civil litigation firms. Priority is New York, but still open to the Philly area. And at school, I am the SBA president, and I've been a member all 3 years of law school. I'm also on the trial team with Andrew and on the Moot court board with Vanessa. And fun fact, I don't really have anything to follow up with that. I guess I've been to Japan like 11 times because I have family there, and I'm also a general member of APALSA. So yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today with us. We're all really looking forward to talking to you about our experiences at Villanova. My name is Vanessa Ruggiero. I'm also a 3L like everybody else here. Prior to law school, I graduated from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is also where I am from. Before starting law school, I worked for a global chemical company for a year in direct procurement, purchasing raw materials, and then spent a year teaching theater and dance to kids and at the high school level before starting school. Let's see, I will after school be returning to the Lehigh Valley area where I'm from, and I'll be working for a regional firm there. And my fun fact, I lived in England for 3 years as a kid. So really looking forward, like I said, to talking with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for your introductions. I'm going to go through each group so that they can describe the significance of the group, what the group sort of stands for, their mission, and sort of some of the most important facts, figures, details to know about the groups, sort of how they operate on campus, what they stand for, ways that you can get involved as a student as well when you start in the fall, hopefully as one else. I'm starting with Emily. The Student Bar Association is something that I think a lot of our admitted students has heard a lot about during their time as prospects, admitted students, during some of our other panels today and yesterday, they heard a lot about it as well. Can you chat a little bit about SBA, generally speaking, what SBA means, what SBA stands for, the mission of the group, as the president, sort of the ways in which you've been able to interact with Nancy, who people just heard from, the director of student affairs, but also the administration, the deans at the law school, some of the student groups that are maybe newer to the law school since you're a 3L, maybe groups that were maybe not around when you started, or maybe newer groups that started right when you were a first year student. And then I know SBA is sort of known for hosting the larger activities and events on campus. So what are those events and sort of how do they bring together the entire school for community, for fun, things of that nature?
Sure. And if I get too long in my answer, just because I do have something kind of prepped, just feel free to cut me off or circle back, whatever you need to do, Phil, just let me know. So yeah, SBA is a great way to get involved in the school. It's the Student Bar Association, and it kind of mimics how a lot of counties have bar associations. For example, popular ones here are the Philadelphia Bar Association or Montgomery. So it basically acts as liaisons between the school and the students. So not every student has the ability or opportunity to kind of voice concerns or try to learn from the deans or admissions here at the school. So that's what SBA does. We are almost like a student government. If you have any familiarity with that kind of in college, that's the best example I can give to kind of mirror what we do, because to be on SBA, it is an election. So you get elected by your peers. And then every year you have to run for certain positions to stay within SBA. So you're in charge of, like what Phil said, a lot of the big ticket events here. You're in charge of kind of the student dynamic. You're on top of big things that are going on in the school, whether it's, if the parking garage is closed a certain day and you have to go a different entrance, try to spread that awareness out. You voice a lot of the student concerns, whether it's that the water needs to be refilled on the bottom floor, or if there's, hours within the cafeteria that students kind of want to change. So we deal with a lot of things like that, but we also deal with some bigger items, I guess, when it comes to admissions, also like schedules, or if, students are really looking for an elective class to be offered that's not currently offered at our school, but maybe other schools are doing as well. So just going off of some student groups, we also had a lot of student groups start this year, a lot of new ones. The Muslim Law Association is a new group that started. I believe there was a South Asian student group that started as like a subsect off of our already Asian and Pacific Islander group. We also had a cannabis law group start start because we had a cannabis law class that gained so much traction that, students began very interested in it. So there's a lot of ways where SBA helps student groups kind of become a thing. There is a process to it as well, but we try to help facilitate what the students want to actually make it possible so that, their wants become needs, and then we're able to facilitate those kind of available to have, as many student groups as the school is able to fit. And then I know what you mentioned, Nancy, and meeting with the deans. So Nancy Whalen is amazing. She is probably the backbone of the school, and she is the best person ever. So she is the director of student affairs and well-being. And she is someone, if you were on the SBA exec board, which I've been on for the past 2 years, I meet with her regularly once a week. So we've been meeting almost on a scheduled basis for 2 years now, once a week. And that's really where you get more insight to what goes on in the school. Nancy is kind of our point person when we have questions about anything, whether it's coming from, we want to put this event on at school, but we don't know how to. She will tell us exactly what to do. She is an expert. You help plan events at the school. You help facilitate conversations between the students and administration or professors and faculty. And Nancy is like your guidance. She really just helps you kind of, steer where you're supposed to go. She knows the people. And if Nancy doesn't know who to contact, she'll know who to reach out to help you get in place with someone else. So she's great. And then along with meeting with Nancy every week, you get to meet with the deans once a month if you're on the exec board. So I've been doing that for 2 years as well. And that's where you really get a lot of the meat of the conversation and things start to, actually get the ball rolling. For example, we were talking to the deans recently about our March Madness brackets that we've been doing with the sports law team. Dean Alexander and Dean Rich have their own brackets in ours. I believe Dean Alexander is like number 6 in ours. He's doing really well. So we were trying to get them to get involved just to show some school spirit. We've been talking to them about some of our events coming up, such as Barrister Ball and Midnight Breakfast and a lot of fun things that we're planning. I just in the beginning of this panel got the email that our spring apparel sale is live, which will be going out shortly after this. So a lot of exciting things there. And the deans also really just care about the school, and they just want to know how the students are doing a lot of the time. I feel like a lot of the time when I'm talking to the deans, they're more so listening just to hear, any voice complaints that I have, concerns, any way to make the school function smoother, and just to hear what they have to say. Again, the deans have been here for a long time too. They're also professors, so they know a lot of the students personally. And, having this communication and this line of communication available is super important to them. And then I guess just to wrap up the answer, some fun things that we are planning is our Barrister Ball. So if you don't know, it's like a law prom, basically. So it's very formal attire. We are having it at the Lowe's in Philadelphia this year. We haven't had one since I've been here because of COVID. So it's a very exciting process. And it's a very big budget ticket item. So I've been working with the deans, general counsel, a lot of events people to try to get this up and running. So we're very excited about this. But not only do we plan big events, we plan little events kind of just to bring up morale. For example, we have a midnight breakfast going on that happens before finals each semester. This year, it will probably be in person. And we also do our faculty awards there. So we nominate faculty and staff and professors, and we give them an award based on, how the students vote, along with the student group as well. And it's kind of just a nice way to end the year and kind of just close out on a nice, happy note. And then to May 14th. So that's something else that SB is a little bit involved in, but not really. But just a lot of fun things going on. And I'm free to answer any questions later on after we get to all the other groups. But if you have anything else, just remember it and I can answer it later.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just gonna put a quick plug to use the Q&A box. Some people have been messaging me questions in the chat box, so I'm gonna keep track of those, but please use the Q&A box. That way we can sort of accumulate and see all the questions there. We'll get to them later on, we promise. And I will just say, I'm really glad that you all are gonna be able to have a Barrister's Ball this year. That's the event of the year. So to finally have one, I'm really, really glad that that's actually happening for you all. Journals are up next for our panel. I'm going to start with you, Madeline. There are definitely a lot of things to cover when it comes to journals, sort of like what Emily just described for SBA, but a lot of people are wondering when you start expressing an interest in a journal, is there sort of a session where we learn more about a journal? what does being a 2L on a journal look like versus being a 3L? What are the different opportunities that are available? What are you writing about? What are recent topics that have been published? I know I'm spitting so much out of you right now. When you think about law review, and then I'm going to do the same thing, obviously, for Vanessa and Juan, for Kyra and Juan, what sort of comes to mind as sort of being kind of like the overview of your journal? What are the got to know things? And we'll start with you, Madeline.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Yeah, kind of a tall order, but I'll see what I can do. But just taking a step back, like I'm not sure everybody really knows even what journals do. Like the legal profession is really kind of quite strange in the sense that like all academic writing is held up by student-run journals. And so you'll see journals across law schools, law reviews that maybe talk about any topic, really emerging legal issues going on. And then other journals like we'll hear from Juan and Kyra that have more of a focused subject matter. And so really what the journals are doing is publishing articles written by academics like law professors, practitioners, and our student members also. So it's a lot of writing, researching when you're part of that writing process, which is mostly as a 2L, which I'll talk more about, and then editing and kind of selecting pieces for publication as a 3L as an editor, as most of our 3Ls are, but we also have some 3L staff writers. And journals are a little different from the other orgs in the sense that you don't really participate at all until after you're completely done with 1L, which is kind of nice. You don't have to worry about it at all. Just focus on your classes and your writing classes and doing the best you can there. And then once 1L concludes, we'll have like an information session. We started this year doing like extra little sessions on specific tips about what we're looking for writing, working with some of our librarians and research experts to help us get the word out on what we're looking for and how to write, like it's called a case note or a comment. It's a little bit different than what you're used to as a 1L student writing, like briefs and stuff is a little bit different than our kind of legal writing. And so after that, all the information sessions and stuff at the conclusion of 1L, we have a summer competition and you can compete as a 2L or a rising 2L or a rising 3L. It's open to both years and the topic changes every year. It's about a prompt and it's kind of similar to what a student note or a comment would look like. You can see published in any law review or other journals right now, but you write it over a period of about a few weeks, and then we kind of look at them. And the way we select students is a hybrid of your grades and then the kind of quality of writing. And then we reserve spots also for just purely write-ons. So if you're just amazing, you hit it out of the park, grades don't even matter. And so we kind of go through that process and we invite students to join. I think it's like mid-June, July, and then you kind of spend 2L mostly drafting your own note or comment. And on the law review, it can be really any topic you want it to be, kind of an emerging legal issue. We do specifically have like an issue focusing on cases that come from the Third Circuit, which I think is kind of cool. And Villanova is kind of positioned well for that, as being right outside of Philly. But we've had a ton of topics like, I'm trying to think, but it's just like so broad and kind of almost gets bizarre. It's like so specific, really can be anything. We have like some criminal law we've had a lot of. We also host like little events and an annual symposium, which is what my job is. So then we have an issue fully reserved to publishing articles from that. We've looked at like business and ethic compliance. We did like an evidence issue this time. So really it can be anything, which is really exciting. And you kind of work on that throughout your 2L, whether that's one article or maybe a blog post, things like that. There's lots of different things you can do. And then as a 3L, you can be kind of a general editor and reading over those students' articles. You can be working with outside submissions from other professors and practitioners, kind of selecting what we're going to publish, and then editing all of that. And so it's a lot of great help with your research and writing, and like you'll learn about blue booking and like citing to everything. And it's really helpful, especially for like all of your externships when you have to go work with the judge and read over all of their drafts and kind of perfect that, but also with, you know, legal writing at any firm. So it's really a great way to just start practicing writing, because I think if you talk to any of us, the unfortunate thing about improving at writing is like you just have to practice and keep doing it. It just takes time. So that's one of the benefits I think all of our journals have. But it's also a nice way to build community too. Like we have little community events. Like last fall, we had a big softball tournament. We're not going to talk about who won that tournament because it was not law review. We do not have a good record, but it was really, really fun. So we do things like that. And then we have like a big journals dinner we have coming up, and then little things throughout the year like trivia and stuff. So it's a really nice combination of like individual work and improving like your own writing, but then getting to be like in a broader community and doing kind of like nerdy but fun stuff together all year.
Thanks, Madeline. Kyra, I'm coming to you next. So Environmental Law Journal, that's the journal that I was a part of when I was a student at the law school. What are some of the topics that have been recently published? A question that already popped up that I guess you can address right now is, do people who have a particular interest in sports law or in environmental law, do they have to express that in their write-on? Is there a way for them to express that? How would they denote that? Does that factor in at all to decision-making for journals? But yeah, what is it like being on the Environmental Law Journal, sort of the roles that people fill being a second-year student as a writer, then going on to being a third-year student? And then also if you can chat a little bit about being published, like how many people generally maybe get published, because I know that sort of is true for other journals as well, and what that looks like.
Great. So I'll start off with a broad overview of the Environmental Law Journal, which we refer to as ELJ. So like Law Review, it's a student-run and student-edited national publication that is specifically devoted to the scholarly review of issues in environmental law. So ELJ serves as a forum for examining more traditional issues related to environmental law, like climate change, natural resources law, anything you could think of along those lines, Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. But recently we have been focusing more on environmental justice issues and trying to dedicate at least one or two articles, whether they're written by legal practitioners and professors or students, that are related to issues that disproportionately affect minority communities. So for example, the article that I wrote that was published 2 issues ago when I was a 2L staff writer was on disproportionate siting practices of industrial factories, landfills, and such, and how that affects communities of color. So that has been a definite theme and focus that we've been focusing on during my time as editor-in-chief. We're currently working to publish an article by a professor that's specifically about climate change in US laws and prisons. So our publications, fun fact, are printed on 50 to 70% recycled paper. So we like to continue that focus on the environment through the products that we're sending to our subscribers as well. I'm trying to make sure that I focus on everything you wanted me to, Phil. So I have a few notes. And so we publish 1 volume every year that has 2 issues. Generally, we publish 4 to 5 comments, student-written case notes in the fall, and then we'll publish a few more comments in the spring written by students, generally around 5 to 6, but that varies per year. So we give 2L students and our 3L staff writers free rein in picking a topic on environmental law. So students who are interested in environmental law to begin with when they're going into the writing competition, this can be an asset. It's not our primary focus when we're selecting student written submissions in the writing competition, but we do take that into consideration as part of your application for the writing competition. You have the opportunity to designate which journal you'd prefer to be on. So you can list your preference. That's something that we'll consider. Say there's 2 students who have identical scores. If I know that you're really dedicated to research and you have prior research experience on environmental law, that's something that I would consider, at least if I was grading submissions, but that does vary amongst the journals and between the journals. Let's see. In terms of the roles that students hold on the journal, our 2L and 3L students that write onto the journal serve as staff writers. So they write their case notes and their comments during the year, and they also source check other students' articles. we call it a source check. They'll go through and check citations. They'll make stylistic suggestions. And then your 3L year, you have the opportunity to hold leadership roles on the various journals on campus. So we have an executive board on the Environmental Law Journal, which consists of 3 editorial roles. And then we also have an editorial board. So we have various groups of students that are dedicated to helping the staff writers, guide them through the case note and comment writing process. We also have specific editors that work with our outside authors in selecting their submissions and helping them draft and focus on their citations as well. We also have a symposium every year. So there are 2 positions that are dedicated to the symposium, and one of our newer positions is our diversity editor.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kyra. Juan, I'm coming to you next. Breakdown of Sports Law Journal. I'll just have you sort of follow suit, chatting about the journal, getting involved, topics that have been published recently, and then we're going to go to Vanessa and Andrew to sort of tag team trial advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Murad Sports Law Journal, it is a national publication. Villanova actually has one of the premier sports law programs in the country. There's a few other schools that have a pretty reputable program, but Villanova is definitely one of the best, if not the best, sports law program in the country. I think it's very important to note, as I've talked to prospective students, that there's a perception that you have to be involved in sports law or interested in sports law or part of the sports law society, which the law school has to be part of the journal. That's not true. Although I am part of the sports law society, I'm not interested in practicing in sports law. I enjoy writing on the topic, but you are able to be part of the sports law journal separate from the sports law society, or you can be in both. Some of the topics that have recently been published, there's been a lot of hot topic and conversations going on around name, image, and likeness, NIL. That's, in a kind of a short abbreviated explanation is where athletes are now being paid at the college level, at the collegiate level. That's something that our journal has frankly been on the forefront of. We've been writing about this and publishing topics and articles and blogs about this for many of years. So it was kind of fitting and timely that the Supreme Court just, came down with this big decision that changes, how athletes are now going to be paid. And so it's really fascinating to see, in almost real time, the topics that we are writing about and researching and spending a lot of time thinking about be, talked about and, decided at the Supreme Court level. The Sports Law Journal is run similar to that of Law Review and the Environmental Law Journal. There is a write-on competition in which we receive all these submissions at the end of your first year. It's very nice, I think, as Madeline noted before, that with journals you don't really get involved until after your first year, and that's really nice because you can just focus on your grades and focus on other things that you want to be involved in at the time and not have to think about that extra push of journal. And so after your first year, you submit through a competition, you submit a packet and we will review, and similar to that of ELJ and to Law Review, choose typically around 20 1Ls to join our journal, and you get invited to join. There's a lot of camaraderie amongst journals, and it's also a really good way to get published. I think that's something that needs to be noted and named here, is that publication is something that really is a nice feather in the hat, and having the opportunity to get published, whether it be through blogs or be through an actual volume annual publication, is something that should be taken advantage of, and you'll have the opportunity to do so on the Sports Law Journal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Juan. So Andrew, Vanessa. I can come to you both, I guess, for this next set. So maybe y'all can do it together. But specifically, Andrew, I'll start with you first to chat about trial team, what it's like getting onto the trial team, sort of, what being a member of the trial team looks like. Obviously, you heard Emily talk about, or you even talk about being a part of both, right? So knowing that students can do both Moot Court trial team. And then Vanessa, just same sort of how students get involved with Moot Court, the difference between the two. I feel like I say this wrong, even though I went to Villanova at Remos, the competition, sort of your role in that, the way students might be able to also get on to Moot Court that way as well. But yeah, just to sort of chat a little bit about each of your groups. But Andrew, we'll start with you first.
Sure. So to give kind of an overview, before I talk about trial team, I do want to discuss the difference between Moot Court and trial team. We are both oral advocacy competition teams. Moot Court centers on appellate advocacy, arguing before judges in fictional appellate courts, and a trial team is focused on trying cases before juries at the trial level, before fictional juries. So as for trial team, we're a team of 12 members. We compete in mock trial competitions across the country, and generally on a day-to-day basis, we are focused on developing a case for trial. So we practice 2 to 3 times a week. Each member competes in one competition per semester, and your semester sort of culminates in that competition. We send squads of usually 4 to different competitions, and you usually start with about 3 preliminary rounds before making the cut and advancing to quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, and yeah, so we've had a lot of success recently. We are sending a team to the national trial competition in Texas. Emily actually just finished as a finalist in the AAJ national competition. That's her second. She was also a finalist last year. But I've had a great time on both organizations. Trial team has helped prepare me for entering my job as a trial lawyer. I think that both trial team and Moot Court are unique in that they give you a set of skills that you're then able to go walk into a courtroom in the real world more prepared than the person next to you. So with that, I'll hand it off to Vanessa.
Thanks, Andrew. So like Andrew said, the Moot Court Board focuses on appellate advocacy. So we do our oral arguments in teams of 2. So if you're a member of the Moot Court Board, you have a team member that you are assigned that you will compete with throughout the rest of your law school experience. Our goal, we have kind of 2 main things that we focus on. We focus on the REMAL competition, which I'll come back to, and then we send all of our teams to external competitions. This year, we have 30 members, so 15 teams, and we are represented at 13 different outside competitions. Typically, we will travel to all of those competitions, but because of COVID, the last couple of years, most of our competitions have been moved to the virtual format. But I think all of us would say that there's been a lot of learning in that on how to argue over Zoom before a panel of judges. And I think it's a skill that will be really transferable into the real world. We did have a team that was able to travel to DC last weekend, and Andrew was on that team. So there is some traveling happening and it's coming back. Our competitions range a variety of practice areas, from constitutional law to employment law to evidence to, family law. We cover a lot of bases, and we've had a very strong year so far. We've had 2 teams that are octo finalist teams, 2 teams that are quarterfinalist teams. And last weekend, one of the teams we sent to Villanova won the national Moot Court competition in child welfare and adoption. We were very, very excited. It was very exciting for that team. One of the competitors won the 10th overall oralist out of 64 oralists in the preliminary round. Another won the top oralist out of 64, and she was also awarded the best final round oralist. So it was a very strong weekend. Our weekends are busy once we're competing at external competitions. This weekend, for example, I think we have 4 teams all competing simultaneously, but it's a lot of fun, and it's really focused on some of these real world skills. So to gain membership, similar to the journals, we have a summer competition, and it focuses on exactly what you would do as an appellate advocate and on the Moot Court Board. You write a brief, for a fictional problem. And you also do an oral argument before a panel of judges. And that's how your score is determined. And that's how you gain membership onto the Moot Court Board. But there is another way to gain membership onto the Moot Court Board, which brings me to the REML competition. The REML competition is an inter-school run competition it's student run, but it's also faculty supervised. It's run in conjunction with Legal Writing 3 litigation. So there is credit that's earned for the class. And as a part of that class, you compete in the competition. So you'll spend your entire fall semester of 2L year working on a problem with your partner. And then it will lead to a culmination of a brief submission and then also oral arguments in front of panels of judges. For the preliminary rounds, we bring back alumni judges. Then for the quarterfinal rounds, it's professors that judge, which typically students say is the most fun that they have in their rounds because it's seeing their professors in a little bit of a different light. And then we always bring back sitting judges for the semifinal round and the final round. So this past year was the 62nd year of the competition. And on our semifinal round, we had 2 judges from the Superior Court of Pennsylvania and 1 judge from the Superior Court of Delaware on the bench. And then our final round judges, we had 2 judges from the 3rd Circuit and 1 judge from the 4th Circuit on our bench that our students argued in front of. So in addition, we have a new initiative. It's our 2nd year of bringing alumni coaches back. So every team is assigned an alumni coach. So you will work with that coach as you prepare for oral argument, and they will come to many of your practice rounds and give you some real world feedback on that. So that's kind of the broad overview. I think I hit everything. Andrew, did I miss anything big from your experience on Moot Court?
No, I think you hit everything. Like Vanessa said, the in-person competitions are coming back. I was able to go down to DC. I think that's been something disappointing about the pandemic for everyone on a competition team is traveling was really something we look forward to. And we got sort of robbed, but finally this semester it's come back for a lot of people. So
awesome. Thank you all so much for the overviews. Kyra, I want to come to you really quickly because the one question that popped up relates to credits that you can receive from being on a journal. And Emily, I'm going to come to you afterwards for a couple of questions regarding credits for trial team Moot Court involvement as well.
Sure. And I know I put that in the chat. So all staff writers across all journals receive 1 credit per semester for their work, and you meet a certain minimum amount of hours for your work on the journal each semester in order to receive that academic credit. And then that's the same for the leadership positions. Aside from the executive board, on our journal, at least we receive 2 credits per semester, and we have a higher minimum amount of hours that we need to do for that work on the journal in order to receive the credit. And I know that there are various leadership positions, equivalents on the other journals that also receive more credit per semester.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because years ago when I was a student at the law school, we didn't get any credits. So it is really important that it's changed over time. You spend a lot of time on journals. And so it is really important to know that that's going to supplement these credits, the class load that you're taking as well, right? And the responsibility that you hold at the journal will allow you to take fewer courses because you are going to be spending more hours on the journal and sort of correspondingly as well on Moot Court and trial team. Emily, can you sort of break down for me what that looks like when you're involved in that regard?
Sure. And Andrew and Vanessa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what happens is, so if you're on the trial team, you get 2 credits in the spring. So even though you're participating throughout the fall semester, you're doing 1 competition, and in the spring semester doing 1 competition, you actually receive those credits. When you're looking at your transcript and filling out your schedule, you get those credits in the spring. And trial team, you also get a letter grade since it's technically a class. So on top of that, you get 2 credits for being in this extracurricular along with a letter grade, which is very nice. And then for Moot Court, you would get as a 2L, you would be taking the litigation writing 3 course. So you get 2 credits from that. You get 1 credit kind of just for your preparation and 1 credit for actually competing in the REML's competition for your 2L fall semester. And then when it comes to the spring, I believe it's 1 credit because I think you're getting the 45 hours, or it might be 2. I can't remember. 2, yes. And then like Kyra was saying, if you're also for the Moot Court board, if you're an exec member, you get 2 extra credits throughout the year just for the work you're doing. For example, I was one of the Remo administrators for Moot, so I was planning the competition. So on exec, you would get 1 extra credit per semester, which is nice because it can act, like Phil was saying, in lieu of maybe an elective, since you are putting in a lot of work and you're logging in all of your hours for that. And then I know Phil wanted me to talk a little bit about the Student Activities Fair, which happens every fall. It's a very big deal. It's the Ed Huber Student Activities Fair, which is one of the biggest events that happens in the beginning of the semester. This year, we were able to have one in person again, which was very nice. It's something SBA hosts, one of our first events. And what it is basically in the beginning, maybe the second week of school, all the student groups in the Commons, which is if you haven't been to the school yet, it's our big open area that we have right when you walk in. And all the student groups kind of table. I think there's so many student groups, we've now even extended to the student lounge. We've had spaces available and outside if need be. And it's kind of just like an activities fair where they all create a poster board. They have, members standing there. Sometimes they're giving out candy and little tchotchkes to get you guys to come in. But it's really a good way to kind of sign up and put your email address down to see if you're interested. Sometimes the event is more so organized where they'll have topics of law of interest. So, there'll be a sports law table. Maybe next to it is corporate law, family law. Then the other side of the room, there'll be the affinity groups. So BALSA, PALSA, MELSA, JALSA, all of those. And then there could also be other kind of just like specialized groups that show interest. For example, cannabis law. That was a new one that came out this year. Fashion law is a very big one too. They have their own symposium, health law, some more topical areas as well. And it's a really nice event. We have snacks and drinks. Sometimes some bar association people are there just to facilitate kind of conversation and have the ability to network. Sometimes our Lexus reps are there as well, just to kind of give you a little rundown of what they do. And they always have great, free things they're giving out. But it's a really good way to get involved and also see what's available at school. I know I'm pretty sure Trial Team had a table there as well. And it's just nice to see, all the ways you can get involved. And even if you can't attend a general body meeting, just putting your email to be on the listserv is sometimes enough just to stay within the know and know what's going on. For example, I know I can't always make the Women's Law Caucus events, but I am on their listserv, so I get to see everything they're doing and stay involved that way, which is another great way to be connected.
Madeline and Juan, I'm coming to you for this next question. This question is in regards to juggling multiple extracurricular activities. Like you're both talking about obviously an academic experience outside of the classroom that you're on, but you're also a part of different, student groups on campus. What is that like? Is it doable when you're thinking back to your time as a 1L and sort of advice that you would give to 1Ls? Is getting involved early something that they should be looking to do to sort of start creating a community for themselves, to start getting plugged into groups and getting to know upperclassmen? And yeah, how is it juggling these types of activities? Madeline, we can start with you and then Juan afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great idea. A lot of the student groups are knowledgeable that 1Ls are focusing on their classes and getting adjusted. So really during the activities fair, putting down your email is just the smallest amount of commitment, just to receive the news, like Emily was saying. And then it's totally up to you to opt into the events that they're going to. And a lot of the times we try to hold events over lunch or right after classes end, so you can just stop by and get some free food. And that's just a great way to get involved and figure out what kinds of issues these groups are talking about, meet some of the upperclassmen that they have. Another option is that most student orgs have a 1L representative position. And once you're on kind of the email listserv, you'll get all of this information about that. And that role, kind of the time commitment varies with groups. Like the Women's Law Caucus, we're a really big group and we have a ton of events. So you might be more involved, disseminating information to your other 1Ls. It's a great way to get involved even within the 1Ls and with upperclassmen, because people will come up to you and be like, hey, saw you're a WLC rep, what's going on this week? And then you'll see people at the events. It's really a nice way to get involved without too much of a burden of the time commitment. I would definitely advise against being a 1L rep for a million groups. So you want to try to keep your focus on your grades and particular interests that you have. And then there's always the option to get on an email list during 2L, to run for a position during 2L, during 3L. You can always get involved, and there's a ton of stuff going on. These groups are constantly doing things. So you really just find somebody you've identified being on the group and be like, can I get on your email listserv? And that's a great way just to get involved.
Yeah, and just to echo that, I think that something that some advice that I was giving during my 1L year was to use the 3Ls and the 2Ls who have been in my shoes, use them to my advantage. And a good way to get to know a lot of the upperclassmen is by joining, these societies and these groups. And oftentimes they coexist with the things that you are already interested in. So I found that, for me, getting involved in Balsa, getting involved in, a bunch of different groups that I naturally had gravitated towards anyway, was a way that I was able to reach out and to ask questions and to pick the minds of the upperclassmen. But also, each organization has a faculty that oversees the org. So that's also another good way to, have office hours or, to just talk to a faculty more and have more interaction with people at the school. I think as a 1L, a lot is going on. So it's just good to be reminded, that you got this, just being encouraged to have someone to reach out to and to be candid with.
For this next question, I'm going to need a little bit of a show of hands for this one. So those of you that live near campus. Okay, and those that live in the city, that would be you, Juan. Okay, cool. So I'm going to come to Juan, and I guess I'll come to Andrew for this one as well. So chat with me a little bit about finding housing, why you chose to live near campus, Andrew, versus Juan, why you chose to live in the city. People have questions about commuting from the city via car. Also, I'm sure some people know, but also don't know that there's a public transit line as well that you can make use of. So yeah, we'll start with you, Andrew, to chat a little bit about living near campus. If anybody here has roommates or ever had roommates, to chat a little bit about what that experience was like. And I'll just put a quick plug in. We do have a roommate spreadsheet list. It's a questionnaire on Google Forms that I created. It's really intended to help you to find, I guess, essentially your perfect roommate. Questions like, are you a night owl? Do you wake up early? Do you like having guests over? Do you go out? Do you want to stay home? Do you drink? Things like that. We want to know what's going on. We don't want to know. We want you all to know what's going on so that you can find sort of the perfect match for yourself, right? Essentially a roommate that maybe you can have for all 3 years. When I went to law school, I had the same roommates all 3 years, 2 guys in my class, and we became very, very good friends through the experience. So that's what that roommate questionnaire is there for. You've been emailed about it. It's on the Facebook group. We'll continue to spread messages about that. But Andrew, I'll come to you first and then Juan to chat a little bit about living in the city.
Sure. So I live about a mile from campus. I'm not from the area. So when I came to Villanova, I pretty much just did my own research as to different apartment options. I think I found this on Zillow, but it's been great. I like living right by the law school. It's, it's convenient to be able to essentially roll out of bed, take a shower, and just go to campus. And, you can beat a class in 20 minutes. Whereas I have friends who live further away and they sometimes complain about the commute. But, I would say that it depends on your preference. I think there are areas of, Philadelphia, like Center City and even Manayunk, that are a little bit livelier than Bryn Mawr. But frankly, Bryn Mawr has everything that I need, grocery store down the street, restaurants, bars, and again, it's right by campus. So there are a lot of options around here. I know there are a lot of people in this Zoom who live kind of in and around Bryn Mawr, but there's a ton of student housing and it's pretty widely available. So I've enjoyed living here.
Yeah, and not to knock Bryn Mawr, because that's where I lived all 3 years as well, right? So I definitely support Bryn Mawr housing. And I know that Andrew just mentioned this. There are a lot of off-campus housing. There's only off-campus housing available to graduate students, but a lot of apartment complexes that cater to graduate students. So you have to be a law student or a graduate student to even be able to apply for an apartment there. And so it gives students a bit of a community, because you might live in an apartment complex where there are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 other law school students as well. Juan?
Yeah, so I actually live in the city. I live in University City, which has been nice for me. I'm someone, to be transparent. I need a more active community. I love, where Villanova is. It's in an actually excellent location, but for me to live, I like to, one, be a little bit more removed from campus, and two, be in a community with a little bit more activity. I have found the commute to be totally fine. I can train, I can drive. The drive is about 27 minutes and the train's about 17 minutes. And so both options are totally fine. It's really convenient. Andrew said that he gets to campus in 20 minutes. Well, so do I, and I live in this city. So, but I think it's really up to each individual. Everyone has preferences, if they prefer to be in the suburbs or they prefer to be a little bit more around a little bit more action, and both are totally fine. I just would implore that you do what's best for your own personal needs.
There's a question here. Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Madeline.
I say a few things about the roommate situation. I did want to say, when I was an incoming 1L, I put my name just on admissions, like roommate. It was like just a roommate list sent out by email. Like, these people are looking for roommates. It seems like it's gotten more sophisticated now, but really that's like, I just had somebody reach out to me from there. And I think maybe it had to do with the fact that we had like out of state, like undergrads, that was kind of a connection. But I remember coming in thinking like, oh, I would be fine living alone. Like, maybe I'll do that if I don't meet anybody. And that would be nice to be kind of quiet. But I did really like having like another law student roommate to kind of like vent to. And it is nice when maybe you're in different sections and like, so you hear about what they're doing, and then you have kind of like a connection to meet other people in that group. My roommate was like super outgoing and made friends like with everybody. And then I just made friends through her, and it was the easiest thing. And we still live together, and I loved it. And I liked also, like, to go off what Juan was saying about having different preferences, that might also impact like if you want a roommate, if you want to live closer to the school. I really like to study like in my apartment where I'm away from the law school. And so I wanted to be close to be able to like just get back and study if I wanted to. But I had some friends who treated it more like a 9-to-5 job, where they lived in Philly. They came in, they studied there throughout the day, and then they left everything there and like went home, cleared their mind. And I thought that was totally impressive too. So try to spend some time thinking about like what you're looking for out of the housing and roommate situation. And hopefully you'll have a few different options that work.
There's a question here that I'm going to just address really quickly about housing options in Bryn Mawr. In your admitted student packet that you received via mail, I put together a list of apartment options in the area, within a 5-10 minute drive of the law school building, within a 10-15 minute drive of the law school building, buildings where I know a lot of my friends and myself live, but also students to this day still live and make use of. So I would use that first as reference, but also feel free to reach out to me via email, because I can then also send you a more formal list of apartment complexes that are in and around campus. There's a question here that we'll get to in a little bit for Vanessa about preparing for mock trial team auditions after your 1L year. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that I want to throw out quickly before I leave you all alone for a bit. Actually, I'll do this. This is sort of how I've been ending my panels. I will, after this, Emily, turn it over to you. I sent you some of the questions that I've already received so that you can do a little bit of moderating. But this last question, the last question I want to ask you all is to a little bit of rapid fire. Tell me what comes to mind when you hear the word Villanova law. When you think about law school, when you think about Villanova law, what's a word or a phrase or some sort of comment that comes to mind that describes it for you? We'll start with Emily.
I would say probably a lot of, I would say definitely community, but I would also think, and this is probably not what you're looking for, but definitely firecracker chicken wrap, which is something you have to try if you're at Villanova, if you ever come here. But I would definitely say a sense of community. There's an outlet for everyone here. And if there isn't, there's a network here in place to help you start one. For example, if you want to start a student group, if you want to, try a new negotiation team. So I would definitely say the sense of community here is A+.
I'm going to put the pressure on everybody else to not use the word community, which I know is going to, I don't know if that makes it hard. Maybe that doesn't make it hard, but we'll go to Vanessa next.
Oh, mine was going to be supportive community. So I'll go with supportive because I think that yes, there's the community aspects, but I also think supportive in terms of what you get from your professors and from faculty members. I've never had a professor turn me away for questions or not be available for office hours, both with just like questions about class, but also just life questions, that because life doesn't stop when you're in law school. So there's that. But I also think with the students also, I've seen nothing but support for myself, and that's just the environment of Villanova. It's never been a question. So that's what I would say.
Kyra.
I was going to say Caritas, which basically is that sense of community. It's a Villanova value. It's one of the reasons that I ended up continuing to come back to Nova after undergrad, was because, and I actually transferred to Villanova in undergrad. So I had the opportunity to experience other schools, other faculty and staff. And there was something at Villanova that, in terms of this supportive community, that I hadn't really been able to find at the previous school that I was at. And that's why I came back. So that's, I would say, Caritas.
Andrew.
At risk of sounding corny here, I'm going to say opportunities. I think that Villanova does really give you the opportunity to chart your own path. It's very easy to find what you want to do in law and in your career here. As evidenced by everyone on this panel, I think everybody kind of has their own niche and group of people that they're involved with, organizations that they're involved with. And for me anyway, that's really shaped the trajectory of my career. And Villanova does really give you a lot of different paths you can take and a lot of different things you can try out to find your own path.
Madeline.
Yeah, I have like another one that's just an abstract way of saying community, but I feel like everybody is very interconnected and thoughtful. Like the students, like the vibe has just been very relaxed. Like Andrew was saying, everybody has their own thing. And so everybody's kind of celebrating each other. It never really feels like awkward and like cutthroat. And the faculty are just amazing, like some of the most amazing people. And it's just that people keep going back to certain classes because it's so much fun to hear from certain professors. And then you get that same sense of like caring from the alumni, like all of the alumni in Philly, beyond, like anybody I've ever talked to, like in any kind of situation, whether it was like interviewing where it's a little bit more forced or it's just like attending an event, everybody has been so kind and like, but like regular people, like nobody is like trying to one up anybody or trying to seem like the smartest person in the room. So just, it seems like an understanding among like students, faculty, alums, like that we're all kind of in it together and we're hoping for the best for everybody. And I've just really, really liked being in that environment too.
Last but not least, Juan.
So the word that I come up with is alumni. I think that the alumni at Villanova has been incredible. There's, different groups in New York City, in DC, in Chicago, in LA, across the country. You're really able to find community and find people who are part of the Nova Nation, as we always say. And that is almost an instant recognition, an instant way to bond with someone. There's been a lot of times when I've been in rooms with people I have never spoken with before, and the fact that they were Villanovans, that was an instant place in which we were able to find common ground and find community and bond. And so, as you attend Villanova, I really encourage you to reach out to alums. There will be a lot of opportunities through a lot of different events. Take advantage of that, and just recognize that you have a lot of support from people who have been at Villanova Law before you. So, yeah.